Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musa.
Hello.
We're going to do a little bit of a special episode this year. I think we've been kind of talking about doing this for a couple of years, and I think it's funny, we both kind of remembered it on the same day. So we're going to try it this year. We're going to talk about the RPGs we played in 2022. This isn't sort of explicitly not like a top X list, certainly not a top 10, because I don't know where you'd find that. You'd probably only have to play RPGs the entire year to play that many. But
And have no hobbies.
right, yeah, like
RPGs
that's
are too long.
yeah, 10's a lot. And we'll probably talk about some kind of action RPGs, some AAA stuff here, some of the normal stuff we talk about on PUP. That is maybe RPG and visual novel adjacent. And we're going to kind of alternate between our two lists here, and we'll just talk about the stuff we played this year, talk about probably largely the stuff we liked, and just kind of have a kind of nice year-end closeout here. So I'm going to start with you, Musum. What's here first on your list?
So, we kind of discussed this a little bit. It's just in alphabetical order at the moment.
Yes, thank you. I forgot that.
We will see how this turns out. The first item on my list is a game that I mainly remember when I get on this podcast with you because you love it so much, and that is Citizen Sleeper.
Yes, that is as the game that is first on my list here as well.
Yeah, I still need to play the DLC. I still need to beat it. I'm at like the very end, and I don't remember. Something happened, and I couldn't play it for a minute, and I keep not going back. This is. I feel like you're going to say more interesting things about it, but like it's a amazing, like it's a really cool like visual novel, like time kind of gain a skill and go a place and unlock this part to start interacting with it. It's a neat take on the game, and I'm not sure if I've played something quite like it before.
Yeah, it's like a mashup of like a visual novel kind of thing with rolling dice to determine the outcome of things you're doing, whether it's like, I think the only thing you don't roll dice for is like when you're buying something, like you're buying food or you're buying items. But otherwise, like, I'm going to harvest these mushrooms. I'm going to roll a dice. I'm going to try and get this person to help me. I'm going to roll a dice. I think the thing that I love Citizen Sleeper. It's going to be very high on my top 10 list this year. Not only because the base game is great, but both pieces of DLC are really good. The free episodes. The first one was really good. Please heed the game, listeners, when the game says you should wait to do this until the end of the game, because there are some tight timelines on that. The second episode picks up directly after the first episode finished, so it's kind of continuing the story after the game ends. I think the thing that I liked the most about Citizen Sleeper, like, it is incredibly well written. The art is wonderful. The place you're on, the eye, feels real. For anyone that might not remember, you are an escaped, essentially like android clone of a rich person, and you have managed to escape and get yourself onto kind of like a jettisoned escape pod, and you're going to live your life, but you're always breaking down and you're decaying because you're supposed to be tethered to the person you're like a clone or a copy of. So the corporation that has made you needs to feed you these things to kind of keep you running. And it does a really good job at having that dystopian, cyberpunk, capitalist nightmare, avoiding the man and the corporations with a capital C, that sort of thing. But what it does that I don't think a lot of cyberpunk and dystopian video games do is it manages to find that kind of that kindness and that hope that exists between capitalism and the corporations and like the cracks of society. And I think that's what I like about Citizen Sleeper so much is uh, very much your found family of these people that are also just trying to make a living here and just trying to take care of themselves and their family. It has that hope, and it does have the. It's not all like under the boot heel of capitalism. You know, you do get to scrabble out a pretty happy living here, depending on which ending you pick, or if you pick all of them. Or I didn't pick any of them. Um, you know, all of those are legitimate um, endings. The ending that I basically got, it's no spoiler, is you know, I kind of passed on all these other endings, you know, to kind of live on the eye or sort of deal with yourself differently. And I like that my ending was very much like, you know, you decided to be a citizen of the eye. You know, this is the place you wanted to live, for better or for worse. This place is what it is, and it's kind of your newfound home. And I appreciate it wasn't just like, well, you failed, you know, like you didn't make a decision. It's like, no, I made a decision to stay. Um, I really love Citizen Sleeper. I think it's on Game Pass. I played this. I have been playing this on my Xbox Series X. Um, I really, 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 really love it, and I recommend it wholeheartedly to everybody. It's such a cool thing.
Yeah. Well,
Any other thoughts here on Citizen Sleeper? I don't want to
oh
monopolize the whole
yeah,
conversation.
well,
Sorry.
I knew when I said it. I'm like, well, this is Boston's passion. Um,
Yeah.
like it's I don't know that I have anything to add because it was so long ago since I played it last, and I am waiting on the Steam Christmas sale, and I'm gonna pick it up again
Mm,
and just start a new game.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you know, I don't know that I have anything to add.
Yeah.
It's a pretty relaxed game for the most part. Like you feel some kind of tension at the beginning, before you quite understand the systems and whatever pressure you may or may not have on it. And once you kind of figure out like your pacing with the various timers going off, like the tension I feel like dies down considerably, which for me is a good thing. I'm tense enough.
Well, I always kind of liked that about the game where it was, um, as you find your feet and as you get kind of more comfortable in the place you're living and you're building like a support network, all of that stuff gets easy and at some point kind of gets trivial, which I kind of like because it's just like, yeah, I'm taking care of my robot body and I'm eating some food and I'm doing this stuff with all my support people and my kind of network here.
Yeah.
Um, I've always really liked that. Um, I think that's a good. I know people have some criticisms about it, but I think it's largely a positive.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great game. I think most people should give it a try. So
Yeah, absolutely. My game here, my next game here in my list is Destiny 2: The Witch Queen, which probably also not a surprise. But this came out earlier this year, and it's not necessarily the transformative Destiny 2 experience, but I think what a lot of people are seeing in Destiny 2 at this point is kind of a team that's really firing on all cylinders. Um, I think the the narrative improvements that they've made with Witch Queen is pretty great, and I think of special note here is the legendary campaign, the kind of harder version of the campaign that scales appropriately. Like if it's just you, it's going to be pretty hard. But if it's you and two other friends, it's going to be even harder, and it's kind of really gonna push you to be your best. Um, also, not to discount the Lucent Hive they brought in, which is the hive, the kind of chitinous bad guys that are using your abilities against you, which is still pretty rough as some of the bad guys continue even now, nearing 9 months after its release, there's a bunch of stuff that in there that is still pretty nasty to run up against. Um, I think for better or for worse, like I have said this whole year, it's still Destiny 2. Um, still a great time to play it. Witch Queen has largely been really good for the health of the game, but I'm not sure if you really despised the game before. I'm not sure that this is really the thing that's going to 100% bring you back, or kind of bring you into the fold. But if you've always been curious, this is a great place to start and get into Destiny 2. I don't think you played this expansion, right?
Nope, I don't think
Okay.
I installed Destiny 2 once this year when I got the PlayStation 5, and then
Hmm.
I never turned it on.
Right.
Timing just didn't work out.
Yep. Yeah. It's still even kind of an investment. So, Destiny 2 is still in a great spot, and I still play it very, very often. I'm still a very big fan of it. But that's it for Destiny 2. What is the next game on your list?
Somehow, even though we don't know our lists, we are still in alphabetical order.
Right.
Um, was expecting that to fall off immediately.
Right.
Dungeon Encounters is my game. It came out last year. I played through it back like last December, January, or sometime in there.
Mm.
This game, hearing you talk about it, Boston, like very much interested in me in it, but I did not realize how much this game was just going to take over all of my free time with
Yep.
how absurdly addicting it is. Like you
Hmm.
think, oh, I'm just crawling around these squares that don't even, like there's a background pattern, like there's no
There's
like
barely any
detailed,
music or animation or like.
yeah,
Yep.
but gosh, it is so fun filling
Hmm.
out that map and finding all the characters and finding all the various secrets in the game. I I just want them to make another one, and I'm sad they have not announced it yet, to my
Yeah,
knowledge at least.
I have gameplay of it here on the if you're watching the video version, I have it playing next to us. As soon as I saw it, I'm just like, I need to play Dungeon Encounters again. Just 100% like dive right back into it. Um, yeah, Dungeon Encounters is so good. I just like, and like I said when we played it's very much like if you love RPGs at their most base form, because like in the battles there's almost nothing going on either. Like pictures like move from left to right to like attack. Like there's
Yeah.
no, it's just character portraits that wiggle a little bit. Um like it is the most stripped down RPG I've played in a really long time, but I think it gets to its mechanics immediately and it's like, all right, are you ready for 40 hours of this? Like if you are, then you're going to be feasting and it's going to be really great, but if not, you should probably dip out now. Um and man,
Like they
well,
just take these basic mechanics and immediately show you what they are, and
yep,
everything you get immediately tells you what it does. And it is written and done on such a level that you aren't like whereas like a Pokemon will have that hidden stat that your Pokemon get, or at least the old
right,
games did or something, or like
right,
I've complained in the past about like the PSP version of Tactics Ogre having that, like your first playthrough, like you don't know about these faction stats that can affect who you can recruit later,
oh
and at
sure,
the end of the
right,
game they're kind of revealed. But
right,
um, this game immediately enables you to do the math. Like, okay, I have a weapon that does 5,000 damage every time it hits, or okay, I have a weapon that does somewhere between 0 and 15,000 damage. Like,
right,
the risks you're taking there,
yep,
and it is absurdly addicting. It's a
yeah.
lot of fun.
And I think the one thing that I really respected about Dungeon Encounters is even with the exception of a handful of characters, almost every character can be anything, really. Like, there's a dude you pick up pretty early that looks like a wizard. If you just want to turn him into a tank, like a sword and board tank, go crazy. Like, the game doesn't really care about how you're going to set up your party. Um, and I think the thing that made me really love this game was when I first wiped my party. And the game is like, okay, you're back on the first floor. The party is dead down there. Either start the game back over or figure out how to get them back. Like, you go nuts. You get to choose. And I was just like, all right, bringing one person at a time back up here. Let's do this. And like, I really respected that it was just it kind of gave you enough rope, and if you hung yourself with it, then fine. But um, it was just it's really great and super well designed, and it is a spreadsheet game essentially.
Uh, it's pretty empowering recovering your party too, like
Yep.
when that happens, which surprised me. I thought it was going to be a pretty annoying feature, but it was not. Like every time it was like biting nails, like how can I do this with the current equipment I have and these
Right.
underleveled characters?
Yep.
It's
I
great.
pushed my party too hard when I knew I shouldn't have, and I got bitten for it, and it's my
Yeah,
fault. So let's get down there and let's start recovering people.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we've recommended it a lot over this past year and change. But if you listen to the show, you should probably try Dungeon Encounters. It runs well on everything. It is super not demanding on anything, including kind of mentally, and it's genuinely really good. And I wish more people played it. Because I think it is really a cool little hidden gem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what is your next item?
My next game is Horizon Forbidden West.
Woo!
Yay, Horizon! Um, like we talked about at the intro, it's kind of it blurs the line. We blur the lines here a lot. We're not. I think in all
Yeah.
of these shows, we're not super interested in like, here's the discrete definition of JRPG, and we're only playing the. So it's none of that. Um, but I think when you look at pretty much any of these games nowadays, especially for kind of your your big AAA high budget hack and slash action games, most of them are going to be RPGs in some fashion. Um, and I think Horizon Forbidden West kind of surprised me because I really liked the first one. And going to this one, I was sort of excited but a little bit hesitant because I didn't really want them to kind of mess with the formula that I really loved in the first one. And I really don't think they did. I really clicked with this, and I think leaning a little bit more into the RPG stuff and having like, was it 6 or 7 skill trees, so you can
Yeah.
kind of build your character how you really want them to, um, and leaning more into kind of some of the crafting stuff. And um, I think I respect, after the beginning of this game, it largely kind of taking the training wheels off and just being like, all right, like, go crazy. Well, here's your main quest, and here's a whole grip of side quests, and whatever you want to do, that's cool, man. Like, just go ahead and do it. Um,
And so many of the side quests were like of the same like design quality as the main quests, just like a
yep,
little bit shorter. Like there were many times where I like was completely forgot whether I was doing a main quest or a side quest because of all the freaking voice acting and story beats and whatever I was doing.
yeah,
I I love the home base they added. Um,
yep,
like I do still wish like you could have taken your companions with you out into the wild to go hunting, like
yeah.
from home base.
I'm hoping that's kind of the thing for the third game, is kind of, because
Yeah,
I think one of the big things. This isn't a spoiler because I think you see it here pretty early in the game. Um, But narratively in Forbidden West, it's really just everybody saying like, "Hey, Aloy, like for the longest time you haven't been in this alone, so we're not lying to you about that. Like that's it is you and a bunch of your friends, so maybe kind of let's do this thing together." So I'm hoping that maybe the next one is a lot of Aloy and her friends kind of bombing around the world together. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to what you said. I I just know I beat this game and then was like, I actually do want to level up one of these orange items. I'm going to go
Yeah.
over here and grind this thing.
Yep,
I'm
me too.
going to go do this and just like kind of crank the difficulty down. And they had like a make stuff. I feel like there was an option to make enemies drop more stuff. Like there was like
Yeah,
a,
which I really appreciated. Of like the
yeah,
drops can be guaranteed, which it was really great. And I did the same thing too. Like I found kind of a build I liked with all my skills and all the gear and my weapons and everything, and I was like, all right, each one of these improvements, it isn't just like, oh, now you draw a bow 0.01 seconds faster. It's like if you invest your time and your materials into this gear, you can you can make a really powerful thing, which I really appreciate. Like I think that's kind of how it should go.
yeah,
Um, you did mention difficulty. I think that's my only, just like the first one, I think that's my only kind of glaring criticism of this one is at some point in the mid game, it hits a difficulty spike, and I think it gets too hard on normal. I will recommend the same thing I recommended in the first one for this one, which is as soon as it gets too hard, uh, just hit that story difficulty down to, or the gameplay difficulty down to story, and I think at that point it becomes way more fun. And I think you can just kind of bang out the rest of the game. It's still a challenge. You can't just like sit there and face tank a cyber scorpion's tail or something. But like, you're still it's a lot easier at that point to
yeah,
to get
yeah,
through.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely fun game.
it's really great.
Um,
Yeah,
I've lost track. Let's see. It's my turn now. Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
uh, the Shadowrun trilogy. Um,
Mm,
so I still think this is a great package of games.
yep.
I think Dragonfall and Hong Kong are amazing games, and after replaying a bit of the first one, maybe skip the first one. I've really soured on that game over the years, I guess.
Yeah, I
It
also have this in my list too under the Shadowrun, Shadowrun Returns specifically. Um, and after playing, I think like 95% of that game, it's pretty solid. But yeah, you could probably just scooch right on to the next one. This the second one there.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had really because I played like that first one up to the point where they reveal who the actual bad guy is, and I remembered the story, and it's like I'm just gonna go on to Dragonfall, and Dragonfall is just so immediately like you can tell in playing those games back to back. Okay, this first one they were figuring out how to use Unity and create
Right.
this game. The second one they are taking off with their tools. Like
Yep.
the level of design is so much better and so much more entertaining. But I think these games are great if you want a heavily story focused isometric game where you have a city that you're running around and making relationships with the different citizens, but also like this XCOM style combat and like this level of writing that particularly in Dragonfall and Hong Kong, I think are pretty high.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of reading in those games, so you got to like reading.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I just think they're absolutely fantastic games, and getting all three of them in one package is a no brainer if any of
Yeah.
that stuff sounds appealing.
Yeah. I never played them originally, so I was really excited for them to come to consoles, which is kind of my platform of choice. Um, and number one, I gotta say, made the transition to consoles really, really nicely. Using the kind of left stick to move your character around instead of to clicking to move on the PC version. That transitioned really nicely, and all the menus work really well. Like they did a really good job at translating that over. Um, and yeah, I agree with you. Like this first game felt really great. It's it's very much like you said, like kind of a scrappy little team doing their passion project stuff. But the first game feels really good. I think they did a really good job of introducing you to the world as someone who doesn't really know that much about it. Um, I feel like thankfully there was never like a horrible lore dump of like pages and pages and pages, nothing like that. Um, they just kind of got you in and you were off to the races and you were living this world and recruiting orcs and mages to your team. And um, I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've played one of these, XCOM style games where you really do get to build your team. It's really you and a bunch of recruits going on out on a mission to do stuff, um, and it's cool. I think the triple pack, like you said, the triple pack on consoles is really great. I think it's on Game Pass on Xbox and PC as well, which is like a no brainer for all three of those. Um, so I don't know if I have anything else to say. I'm excited to try the other two. I got to a point where in the first one where I didn't finish it, and I'm not going to. Not because it's bad, but I kind of got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm not sure I want to go through all of the like party member and side quest trouble to get to the next story beat here. So I think I'm just gonna kind of I had my time with it. I really enjoyed it. I played the vast majority of it. I'm just gonna move on to the next one.
Yeah,
Which
they're all unrelated characters, so
right, yeah. So
like you get like a news clipping about the first game and the second one that if you beat it, you will recognize the news clipping, and if you didn't beat it, then you won't.
yeah,
You'll
yeah, just be like, huh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. Anything else about those guys?
That's it. What's your next game?
My next game is Jack Move, that came out this year. Um, it's a 2D pixel art kind of traditional, almost like Sega Genesis style uh, RPG. It is a it's still wild. We usually don't see these anymore, but it's a single party member RPG. Um, I think I'm played about half of it, and it is just you the entire time. You don't even get any guest members or anything. Um, and I really like it because it feels like kind of one of those modern classic RPGs where it's like I played Shadowrun on the Genesis and I really liked that and I kind of want to make my own, but you're kind of making it modern. Um, like it has the kind of turn order in the upper right hand corner, like you expect games to have now. It has an encounter rate sort of radar thing where as that fills up, you're more likely to run into an enemy encounter. Um, but it's kind of a classic thing where it is pretty difficult. If you're caught not paying attention, it's going to punish you a little bit. Um, and it's another kind of cyberpunk, kind of not like horrible dystopian, super negative cyberpunk, but it's kind of you and a bunch of scrappy hackers are investigating a suspicious message your dad left, and trying to find some old technology. So it's kind of fun, and it seems like it's one of those RPGs that's maybe like 10 hours long, which we typically don't get. Um, I don't know if I have a lot to say about Jack Move other than I kind of really like it, and in a refreshing way, it doesn't really do anything more than kind of how it looks. It sort of looks like a traditional 2D turn-based RPG, and it is in a way that I really like. So I I've really enjoyed Jack Move. I haven't finished it yet because I just haven't made it a priority this year, but it's really great. I have liked it a lot at pretty much every minute I've played. I think my criticism still stands that I think the boss battles are a little bit too long. You kind of know that you're going to win pretty early on, and you're just kind of going through a bit of a slog. Um, but that's certainly not the worst thing. What's your next game here on your list?
Shadows over Loathing.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
this is the West of Loathing, that company's next game. I think they're called Asymmetrical Games or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I probably should look that up. This is it's kind of West of Loathing, but new and improved. Lots of quality of life stuff like quest logs and a little bit better inventory management and an interesting kind of like a screen dedicated to showing perks and things like that. But
Hmm.
it's still your figure humor, but this time you're in kind of a early 1900s like Lovecraftian kind of hunting down cursed objects adventure, and
Right.
uh, it's it's a lot of fun. It goes with jazz for the soundtrack, and I have definitely enjoyed being a jazz agent. Um,
Right. Right.
and I I really think you should check these games out. And you could probably get West of Loathing for $5 or $10. It goes on sale a lot.
It's
If
that
you
first one. It's really good.
Yeah. Like, so that would be a real cheap way to get into it, but also Shadows of Loathing is $20 brand new. So they're
Yeah.
both fairly cheap, just depends on what level of cheap you want. Um,
And
so
one of those, the first one definitely, and it seems like the second one follows suit of a genuinely funny game. Like they know what kind of game they're making, and they really like playing with conventions in a way that I think is genuinely really funny. Um, so we don't get a lot of funny RPGs. We usually get like genre bending ones, but never ones that are that funny. So it's kind of refreshing.
yeah, just be sure and go on the options menu and at least click on the first haunted box, if not the second one.
Right. Yeah.
uh,
So yeah, change your experience to be as haunted as you'd like.
yes.
Yeah.
uh, and what is your next game?
I'm sort of out of games that I have
Oh, okay.
finished this year. The only other one that I have of note is a game that I'm sure is also on your list, which is Soul Hackers 2. Um,
It
which
actually isn't.
okay.
uh, you may like this game more than I do, but go on.
Well, I feel like I might have this on my list because I'm still pretty early into it. Not because it's bad, but I just have really not gotten enough time into playing this game. I think I've played, gosh, maybe an hour or two. I think. Um, I think I've recruited maybe one party member. Um, but I I appreciate that they have really gone the extra mile kind of stylistically um, in these games, and I appreciate that we got a small budget title from Atlas, which we usually don't get. Um, and I have a real weakness for like tiny and small budget RPGs. I think developers can do some really cool stuff with those restrictions. Um, and seeing Atlas make like a game in Unity that very clearly has a pretty small budget, um, it seems like a cool thing. Um, and also getting a sequel to a game from the Saturn that was never expecting us to get a sequel.
Yeah, that is
Um,
absolutely crazy.
yeah,
And to be clear, like I don't view it at all as a bad game. It just is not a game that hit. It is a game I will probably play throughout next year, but it
mhm.
is not a game that has really like hardcore hit my fancy.
Yeah,
Uh,
nothing you're like racing home to play.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I haven't played a ton of it this year. It's a lot like SMT5 last year, where it's like played a little bit of this, and I kind of really liked it, but it didn't 100% grab me right away, so I'm kind of moving through it pretty slowly.
Yeah.
What is your next game?
Okay. Uh, and I got a few more than you.
Okay.
So I'll just run through them. Next one is Symphony of War.
Hmm.
I have talked this game probably to death the last couple months, but I love this game so much. Like,
Yep.
yes, I can nitpick a lot of little things about it, but when you give me like, okay, you have these 50 or 60 units and you can swap around their classes, and like each class has its own like 3 or 4 class kind of tree it can graduate up, and
Hmm.
like, yes, those require items, but they're like, if you ever downgrade that unit, those items are refunded. So like you're never really losing things and can experiment. And like if
Right.
you break apart your army and like I want to make an archery unit and I'm like one short, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna grab this knight over here and make him an archery unit. Or hey, this lady has a like let's dragons level up faster. So I'm gonna put dragons in the party and they're gonna level up into cool fire dragons. And
Right.
I'm gonna have a cavalry unit that has like 9 cavalry guys in it. And do I want them to all be melee? Do I want some archers in there? And like, it is so much fun managing the army in that game that it is hard for me to hold anything else the rest of the game might do wrong or not as well as I would like it against it.
Right.
It is just an absolute blast, and I don't know if the developers planning on releasing it on it more than Steam. I genuinely hope they do. I think it would translate well. I played it on Steam Deck the whole time, so it obviously can work on a controller.
Right.
Um, but anyway, I adore that game. Um,
Yeah. The Symphony of War, the Nephilim Saga, if anyone's looking for that
yes,
one.
Nephilim. I never remember how to say Nephilim, so I just say Symphony of War.
That's right. I'm assuming my best here.
Yeah, you'll see a anime lady with blue hair.
Yep.
Uh, and it, you get to choose male or female at the start, and like there's some Fire Emblem relationship stuff in there you can get into,
Oh, nice.
which some of it's kind of fun. Some of the matchups you can do.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. Continuing on, Tactics Ogre Reborn. Um, this is a fantastic remake. I'm so happy they brought it to all the different consoles. You know, if you like, I'll just keep using Fire Emblem since I feel like that's the most popular tactics game at this point,
Hmm.
due to the Switch game. Um, if you wish Fire Emblem was more Game of Thrones and had a very, very in-depth job system,
Yes.
uh, then Tactics Ogre Reborn is for you. It is a massive game with fantastic art and writing, very fun gameplay. There's so many systems in it, but they have pretty good menu control over that stuff. And
Mm.
you'll probably get a horrible ending the first time you play through, but you'll get basically a time travel like
Yep.
lever at the end of the game, and you can just go back to an area and start from there and make some different decisions. Um,
Yeah. Speaking of that too, it's one of the few SRPGs where your choices genuinely do matter. Like you're given choices a lot of times in the game, and that stuff really does matter for where the story goes in a pretty specific way. But like before, you'll have like a decision tree, almost like a visual novel, where you can kind of go back and make different choices and try other stuff in a way that's pretty cool.
yeah, and they added voice acting, so you don't even
Yes.
have to read. It seems like most of the game is voice acted, if not
Yep.
all of it.
Yeah.
Um, and then my last item is Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah.
I really think they knocked this game out of the water. Like, I have not been like quite addicted to it as I was like a Symphony of a War, but every time I sit down to play it, I'm like, why haven't I been playing this? This is so good.
All
Like,
right. I could have been playing this the whole time.
it's like they have a few goofy things in there, but they just took that old combat system and said, well, what if instead of waiting for your character's abilities to charge up so you can do this particular combo, like series of moves, what if there were multiple combos? What if there was like multiple ultimate moves? So it doesn't wind up being overbearing. It winds up meaning that you always have something that you are executing on in combat to give you an advantage,
Oh, sure.
which is huge in a game like this. Some of the I like that it's kind of just this open world go and conquer colonies, and every colony you get unlocks like a story character that gives you another class, because this game also has like 20 or 25 job class
Oh,
type
wow.
things you can get. Um, it's unlocking the classes for the various characters is maybe a little annoying, but
Mm.
because it is just kind of involves you battling, and then whatever character you want the class to unlock to, you basically gotta make them shoulder to shoulder in battle while they do it.
Oh,
But
sure.
um, it's a really well designed game. It seems like it's well written. I have not beaten it yet, so for me, like the word's kind of still out on the enemy, but it is easily the best of the Xenoblade games,
Mm.
in my opinion. So
Yeah, everybody who has picked it up this year has had the same feedback of like it's probably the best Xeno game and it's one of the best RPGs of the year. And like, sure, there's some not 100% great stuff in it at all times, but like, I've I don't know the last time we've had an RPG, a JRPG especially, where it's like everything in this is perfect, no complaints or anything. So, um, everybody really seems to love this.
and you get to use all your characters at once. Like that one,
Yeah,
like I didn't know that going into it, so that was like a system shock. It was like I get 7 characters on the battlefield at once. Okay.
on the Switch. Well,
I that was the other mind blowing part is like, how does this game work on the Switch? I am so confused.
right.
Uh, but anyway, that is my list.
All right, and that's my list too. It was a good. I think it was a good year for RPGs overall, especially here, kind of in the back half. We got some big stuff here, especially a wild, a sequel to a Saturn game, a remake, like a remaster of a PSP Tactics Ogre game. Like we got a lot of pretty good surprises here this year that actually came out.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening and watching. And if you've listened this whole year, we super appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging out with us and talking RPGs. And hope we'll see you all in the new year. Bye.
Bye.